but it's going to be out. Yeah.
What's up, beautiful people?
Oh, howdy.
Hey, I'm about to eat me a little snack, so I'm gonna mute myself, but I cannot wait. Is there anything that we have to download or get set up beforehand?
Just get in. So, did you get the course or not?
I have not got the course. No.
Okay. Download Atom.
ATOM.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, what Atom.io.
It's the Atom text editor. So, it's in the courses resource list that I put up there, but yeah, it's atom.io. Yes.
God, I decided to sit outside, and I did not realize how damn hot it is, even in the shade. Cool. All right, I'm gonna grab my food. Got Atom being installed right now. I'll be back. 2
All right.
seconds.
All right, so while we run through this rumble, I'm just gonna explain what's going on here, who I am. I'm Clay. Um, so this is a web development course. Um, I am not a web developer myself. I have a little experience. I just did some Web3 coding in my spare time uh, about a year ago, but whenever mods brought up the opportunity for us to do this, I hopped right on it just to lead the forefront, spearhead it, whatever, just to get it out to y'all. Right now, we have it every Wednesday. But as you can see, if you look at my screen that I'm sharing right now, this course is pretty long. So if we did it once a week, um, it would last longer than a year. But what I'm on Wednesdays, it's going to be once a week right now. We're just going to go through one of these lessons every week. Um, and we're just learning to code together here. It's going to be an open forum. Anybody can ask any questions. Anybody can say anything they want to. I'm going to say that we're going to run the classes about 1 hour each week. Uh, the the lessons themselves are split up into about hour blocks, so it works out well. I'm also going to be inside the Discord. I'm going to go faster than doing it once a week um, because you honestly need more practice in that. But not everyone purchased the course, so we're going to set up events and just go through it through the year, so everyone can take in this opportunity. We're also recording it right now. But so yeah, we're going to get these rumbles going through, and then we are going to start the boot camp for today. If anyone has any questions, just go ahead and ask them.
So do you plan on like going into Next.js after React, or is it just going to be purely React based? And the basic MERN stack.
It's the basic MERN stack. Um, I haven't gone through this course myself, but in the future, whenever we do finish this, um, we can always discuss whichever one we want to go through next. Um, this is pretty much a community based event. Um, I'm just a moderator here. I'm going to go ahead and start this first video if y'all are ready. If not, just let me know.
Hello and welcome to the world's best web development course. My name is Angela. I'm a senior developer and the lead instructor at the London App Brewery, London's highest rated programming bootcamp. To date, I've taught over 1 million students worldwide, in person and online. And today I'm so excited that I have the privilege to be your instructor on this course. You're going to get access to over 55 hours of HD video content, step-by-step tutorials, interactive coding exercises, quizzes, and much, much more. This course is created with the same curriculum as our 12-week in-person programming bootcamp. So that means you can look forwards to the same professional level content covering every aspect of web development from HTML to React. This is the only course you need to become a professional full-stack web developer. And the best part? The course is completely project-based. So that means you're going to learn everything you need to know while building beautiful real-world websites and web applications. You'll build a beautiful product website using HTML, CSS, and Bootstrap. You'll build games and musical apps like this drum kit. You'll learn about Node, React, and the Mern stack to build classic developer projects like a to-do list app and a project manager that's perfect for showing off at your next interview. If you're curious, take a look at the downloadable curriculum to learn more. Now, this course assumes absolutely no prior programming experience. So if you're a complete beginner, I'll be there every step of the way, taking you from programming fundamentals all the way through to intermediate and more advanced concepts. Now, if you're an advanced developer, then take a look at the curriculum and start at the level that suits you best. So instead of spending $12,000 on our in-person bootcamp and having to take time off work, you're going to get access to exactly the same curriculum that has years of design and testing behind it. So you won't just know what to do, but also why you're doing it. Now, don't just take my word for it. Check out what my past students had to say about the course. Your time is precious. That's why you deserve the best course money can buy. So what are you still waiting for? Join the course today and find out why over 1 million students have rated my courses 5 stars and see what you can do by mastering web development.
All right, there we go. Hey, Madzu, what's up? Saw you just hopped in here. Like I was talking about before, we're going to be going through this course once a week. It's going to be at this time every Thursday. Going to be running it for about an hour long. That's how much each lesson is really split up into. But it will go longer than a year. However, if you did decide to buy the course yourself, you can, of course, go faster than what we're going here. I'll also probably be hopping in just events on other days and working on the course ahead myself because I would like to get it done in shorter than a year. And so you're willing to work along with me whenever I do that. But these events will go in sequential order every Thursday at 2000 UTC. Anybody else have any questions before we get to the next video? All right. So this is, it's telling us to download the course syllabus. I'll pull up the syllabus right here. Taught by Dr. Angela Yu. The course length is 12 weeks. But it shows that the course fee is $18,000. However, we get it for a lot cheaper. What we'll be going over web development fundamentals, understanding how websites work and how HTML, CSS, and JavaScript contribute. we'll go through HTML5, CSS, Bootstrap, JavaScript, object modeling, jQuery, the Unix command line, GitHub, Node.js, Express.js, application program interfaces, EJs, database fundamentals, SQL databases, NoSQL databases with MongoDB, deployment, building with RESTful APIs, authentication and security, React.js, JavaScript, Web3 basics, deploying your CV website, working with a React front end and blockchain back end, creating your own crypto token, creating an NFT and marketplace. So this is a complete beginner course. And as you can see, it goes over so much stuff. And this is to help you understand better the things that you're buying, right? You can make better financial decisions whenever you can understand how all the stuff you're buying actually works, what minting means, how contracts work. So this is another reason that we're offering this course for everyone to go through together. The course resources. This all it gets explained a little bit in the videos, but this is what it looks like if you are not following along with me on the course. But it goes sequentially itself.
Hi guys, it's all of that. Hi guys, it's Angela from the App Brewery, and in this lesson, we're going to deep dive into how exactly does the internet actually work. Because here's this thing that we use every single day, and we completely take it for granted. So before we start developing awesome websites and web apps for people to access through the internet, it's really important that we understand the fundamentals of how the internet actually works. So what exactly is the internet? Well, a lot of people think of it as a cloud, something that's hanging around in the sky. It's super complex, super difficult to understand, but actually, that's not it at all. The internet is really simple. All it is just a long piece of wire, and the wire connects different computers to each other. So you might have one computer that's in Seattle and another computer that's in London, and they can talk to each other and transfer data through this giant wire. Now, some of these computers attached to the internet have a very special job. They have to be online 24/7, ready to serve you all of the data and the files that you are requesting when you try to access websites. And the computers that are doing that job we would call a server. And the computers that any user would use to access the internet is called a client. Now you can imagine a web server as a giant library that's open 24/7. And you can go in there at any hour of the day and request, I want to see Google's homepage, or I want to see the latest post on TechCrunch. And it would be able to serve you with all of the files and data that you would need to be able to view whatever website it is that you requested. Now you can imagine if there's a library that's big enough to house all of these websites, then it's going to be pretty difficult to quickly locate the thing that you want out of this giant library, right? So how is this problem solved on the internet? Well, let's say that you're sitting at home on your computer and you type in google.com because you want to head over to the main Google homepage. What happens behind the scenes is that your browser will send a message to your internet service provider. So these are the people who you pay to be able to access the internet. And if you're in the US, that's a company like AT&T or Comcast. And if you're in the UK, then that would be something like BT or TalkTalk. Now, the message that you're sending the ISP is, I want to see google.com. And the ISP will then relay that message to something called a DNS server, a domain name system server. And a DNS server is essentially just a souped up phone book. And what happens when you make that request through your browser is the DNS server will look up in its database as to what is the exact IP address of that website that you're trying to access. And every single computer that's connected to the internet has an IP address. This is like a postal address for your computer, so that when people need to send and receive files on the internet, each computer can be located by their unique IP address. And once the DNS server finds the IP address, it sends that back to your browser. So now you know the exact address where you can find the Google homepage. The next thing that happens is you will send a direct request to that address through your internet service provider. And this message will be delivered via what's called the internet backbone. Now, the internet backbone isn't some sort of analogy for some clever programming. It's literally the backbone of the internet. And if you head over to submarinecablemap.com, you can view all of the underwater cables that power the internet. And the internet is made up of these huge, sprawling masses of wires connecting all of the world's internet users. As you can imagine, it's a pretty complex world out there. Now, if I'm sitting in London and I want to see a website that's hosted in the United States, then my browser would have to make a request that goes through one of these cables under the Atlantic Ocean in order to reach the United States. And once that computer has received my request, they'll send back all of the relevant data again through these giant cables. And to navigate all of this crazy underwater and above water wires, all I have is an IP address. It's like as if I'm sending a letter halfway across the world, and my only hope for my letter to reach my friend is that postal address on the front of the envelope. So once I've gotten the IP address of the website that I want to access, then my browser sends another message through the internet service provider via the internet backbone to the server that is located at that address, 216.582.10.46. And the computer that's located at that address is, of course, the Google server. And on this server, there's all of the files that I would need in order to be able to view the Google homepage. The server then sends all of those files back to me through the internet backbone, and I get to see the Google homepage in my browser. And all of that happens in a matter of milliseconds. And just to imagine the journey that my data has gone on, traveling through the world thousands of times per day. So why don't you give it a go? Open up your browser and type in 216.58.210.46 and hit enter to see the Google homepage being served up to you through the internet.
I just want to point out how crazy that is, the amount of cables going underneath the Atlantic Ocean.
Now that we've spoken about how the internet works, in this episode, I want to talk about how exactly do websites work? What exactly does HTML, CSS, and JavaScript do exactly? Now, in order to access a web page, we all know that you need a browser, right? And that can be Chrome, Safari, Firefox, whatever is your favorite one. These are all pieces of software that allow you to look up the IP address of your website and be able to receive data that it can render into these beautiful websites that we see. Now, the data that you receive from the server usually consists of 3 types of files: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And it's very likely that you would have come across these types of files or these words before, because they're so common and they're so integral to how websites work. But what exactly do they do, and why are there so many different types of files? Why can't we just have one file that's, a website? Well, they actually have very different jobs. The HTML code file is responsible for the structure of your website. So if a website was a house, then the HTML would be the builder who would come in to build the walls or put in a toilet. Basically, they establish the structure of your house. And when you write HTML code, you also build up the structure of your website. So you could use HTML to add an image or a button or a text box, whatever it is that you need in your website. Now, the second type of file are CSS files, and these files are responsible for styling your website. If you were building a house, then this would be the painters and decorators. They would be going around painting the walls or adding stylistic flourishes to your place and generally making the place look the way that you want it to. And that's exactly what CSS code does as well. When you incorporate CSS, it allows you to specify how you want your website to look. So you could say that, yes, I have a button that I got from my HTML, but that button, I want it to be red. and I want the text to be white, and I want the font of the text to be in Arial. That is all done using CSS code. Now the final component is the JavaScript code. And this is the code that allows your website to actually do things or have behavior. And if you were building a house, you would have the electrician come in who would be able to connect the wires so that your light bulbs actually switch on. Or somebody who comes in and does the plumbing so that your toilet can actually flush. And the JavaScript code does exactly that. It allows your website to actually do things and have behavior. So if we take the Google website as an example again, once we receive these files from Google's server, when our browser loads up the HTML files, we'll get to see the structure of the website. Namely, there's one image, which is their logo, there's 2 buttons, and there's a text box where we can enter our search. Now, when we receive the CSS files, then that will modify the appearance of all of those components. We don't have any more buttons or any more images, but they now look the way that Google wanted it to. And finally, when we incorporate the JavaScript files, then our website actually starts having behavior. It has functionality and it's actually able to do something rather than just display some images and text to us. Now, with the knowledge that we've already acquired, we can already start messing around with websites on the internet. So open up Chrome and head over to techcrunch.com. And if you're not familiar with it, it's basically a technology news website where I get my latest tech news. Once you're over here, I want you to right click on the title here and click on Inspect. Now, this brings up the Chrome developer tools, and we're going to be exploring this in a lot more detail. But for now, we're going to use it to do something really simple. You can see that when I right click on that heading and click Inspect, it automatically opens up the entire code file that was used to render this website. So these are all of the elements that make up this website. And when you click on Inspect, it will highlight to you the part of the code that corresponds to the thing that you right-clicked, right? In this case, it's this title. And inside this title, you can see that there is a link, which means that when you click on it, it'll go to another web page, but it's also got a bit of text. So right inside Chrome Developer Tools, if you double click on the bit of text that corresponds to the title, you can actually edit it. So let's go ahead and change the front page of TechCrunch. Let's say something like, so this is a great way of pranking your friends, especially when they can see that you're on techcrunch.com and the title or any of the text on the website is what you want it to say. And this is a great joke to play on friends who are maybe not quite as technologically advanced as you because they haven't taken the course that you have. Now, unfortunately, when I hit refresh on this website, all of my good work is gone. And the reason is because when I'm editing it here, inside my browser, I'm actually changing the local copy of this file that I got back from the servers. But when I click refresh, then that makes a new request to the servers to load up a fresh copy of the website. So of course, then it updates to the original content. But in the coming lessons, we're going to be working with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript so that you can create and host live on the internet your very own websites. And through learning how to code and how to build websites, you're going to be able to make websites that say anything that you want it to, look the way that you want it to, and have the functionality that you need. So for all of that and more, I'll see you in the next lesson.
All right. If any of y'all ever have any questions or anything you want to say, if you need me to go back, go ahead and speak up. Like I said, this is an open forum, okay? So does anybody have any questions?
Not a question per se, but I just wanted to highlight Angela is an incredible teacher. So this is probably going to be the most digestible, format that you guys could be learning, programming, web development, any of that. Just an amazing teacher. I have a call, but I just wanted to pop in and say that before I left.
Oh yeah, no, thank you, Clutch. I mean, so I've gone through this first section and she does a really great job of explaining everything. So
Absolutely. And
Just
I'm a visual person, so I'm like, oh my God, yes, this is amazing.
yeah. So I mean, I was sitting over here. I have the I luckily have two screens, so I can mess over on my screen while I'm watching and listening and be able to do the stuff. And if you're able to do that, I would um,
You could
just mess
also like
around with the stuff.
if you wanted to listen and kind of watch this, you could either be doing it on your phone while taking notes on your computer, or watching it on your computer and taking notes on your phone if you don't have access to two screens.
Yes. There's uh, so she'll explain it. I think it's in this next video, but there's a good Cornell note-taking strategy
Oh,
that
it's so good.
yeah, that I would get that ready for our next week's lesson, and just also mess around with taking notes because it's going to be big in extracting this data and being able to well study it and look at it and know what you're doing in the future as well. So yeah, but have fun, Clutch.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna bounce. I got 2 minutes.
See you, man. All
Ciao.
right,
I'll be back.
you're good. Here's the next video.
Hi guys, and welcome to the course. Now, after thousands of students have taken this course, I've compiled some of the top tips from the most successful students to help you make the most of your time on the course. So I know what I do with instruction manuals when I receive them, but this is not it, because I want to share with you some of the most useful tips that will help you learn to code and get the most out of the course. So first tip is, as you go from lesson to lesson in the course, you'll find that each of the lessons should take about 10 minutes long. And this is something that we intentionally designed for the course. Now, a lot of students, when they're watching video tutorials online, very often what people do is they'll watch the video and type along to the code. And this is what we tend to call code along. So the tutorial types a bit, you type a bit, you try to keep up with the pace of the tutorial, or you pause the video every so often to catch up. But essentially, you're coding along with the instructor. And this is probably one of the most intuitive ways for people to learn from online tutorials. Now, in order for you to be more successful than most people, what I would recommend is instead to watch the video tutorials, which are usually, as I said, about 10 minutes long. If it's a 20-minute or a 50-minute tutorial, then stop it at around the 10-minute mark. And while you're watching it, instead of spending time trying to frantically type out the code, I want you instead to just try and understand what's going on, why the code is being written, and understand the purpose of the code rather than trying to type along at the same pace. Now, once you've understood what those 10 minutes are about, what the tutorial is trying to teach you, then to go to your computer and type out the code and try to replicate what happened in the 10 minutes. Now, the reason why this helps people learn so much better is because instead of just copying code by rote, which doesn't teach you anything, instead it forces you to really understand what's going on and absorb the content, and then test yourself afterwards to see if you really understood. So this is my number one top tip. And it's important to remember that we are learning programming. We're not learning how to type fast. It doesn't help you become a better programmer by just copying out code as fast as you can. If you wanted to practice your typing and to speed up your typing skills, then I recommend something like Keeber.com, where you can focus on that specific skill to improve your speed of typing. But what we're going to focus on in the course is learning programming. So we're going to keep our eye on the prize. Now, while you're listening to the videos and you're understanding what's going on, I recommend taking a few notes for yourself to come back to or review in the future. And this is especially useful after when those 10 minutes are up and you're trying to remember what are those bits of code that you had to type and what was the theory that was covered. So one of my favorite note-taking systems is something called Cornell Notes. And it's very, very simple. It just splits a single note page into 4 sections. The top, you have the topic, what the notes are about. And then you have the section of notes where you would write down the majority of your notes. Now, after you write a few lines, it's recommended that you go and review those notes and pick out the most important keywords or questions that you're asking yourself that you want to research on later, or any sort of hints or reminders to yourself. And finally, once you've completed the lesson, then you go to the summary section and you summarize what the entire lesson was about in a few bullet points. So I've created a downloadable PDF of this note-taking system. So if you're keen to try it out, go ahead and download it from the course resources section, and you can print it out into a notebook or just on a few loose sheets if you want to try it out. Now, the next thing to remember is that if I'm talking too fast or too slow, you can always change the playback speed. Now, if you're in a lesson that you find particularly easy to understand and you already know most of the concepts, then go ahead and switch the video player to double speed so that you can cover much more ground in the same space of time. Now, on the other hand, if I'm talking too fast or if English is not your first language, then feel free to change the speed to half speed so that I talk a lot slower and you can take up the information more readily. But it's important that you try to not skip any of the tutorials and any of the modules. And the reason is because the curriculum was carefully designed so that it would be a smooth sloping ramp, so that you start out at the beginning and you slowly make your way through more and more difficult concepts. Now, if you skip a couple of modules, then it makes it really, really hard for you to catch up and to understand what's going on, which is the most important thing. However, some of the videos I will label with optional or skippable, and in that case, feel free to skip those lessons if they don't interest you. Now, the next thing to remember is that if you find at any point the tutorials become harder, and they inevitably will be, they're designed to get harder and harder. But if you find that it's a little bit too difficult, then I recommend just bookmarking it, making a note of which module you really struggled with, and trying to use that method of watching the videos for 10 minutes, reviewing what has been taught, trying to replicate the code yourself. But if you're still stuck and you really don't understand what's going on, then that might be something that you have to come back to. So I find that usually with programming concepts, it helps to try it out, read around the topic, and then come back to it after a week or so. And very often, what was very, very difficult first time you come across it, after you've done it a few times, after you've researched around the topic, and then you come back to it, it becomes a lot easier. So remember to mark things for review that you don't understand. Now, recently, I went to learn windsurfing in Mykonos, and it's a skill that I've never had before. It's something that I found incredibly challenging, and I fell on my face during the entire lesson pretty much, and it hurt a lot. I got battered and bruised, and my ego got bruised a lot as well. But this is exactly what it's like when you try to learn a new skill. So it's important that you persevere and continue to put in the hours to practice and to try again, because you can learn something very superficially just by watching a video or trying it for a few hours. But in order to master a skill, the most important thing is practice. Now, the final thing is that I will say it now, you will get stuck at some point, because everybody does. And in fact, I wish that Hollywood would stop making movies where programmers are just typing away like some sort of frenzied hacker person. Because most of the programmers I know who actually do this as a job, they spend probably 90% of their time just staring at the screen, trying to figure out what is wrong, why is it not working. So getting stuck is very much a universal part of programming, something that you have to come to even love and enjoy. So when you do find yourself stuck, I want you to imagine that you're already a fully fledged developer working a job where somebody's paying you to do this for them, because you're the professional. So I want you to use the tools that professional programmers use when they get stuck, and that is Google and Stack Overflow. Try to figure it out. Try to see what did other people do, because 99% of the time you won't be the first person who's come across that problem. It's very likely that somebody's experienced it before and other people have helped them to solve that problem or help them understand what it is that they're stuck on. And the thing to remember is that struggling is good. In that moment when you finally spot that typo or finally figure out why it is that your code isn't working and you fix it, that is one of the best feelings in the world. So struggle is good, and it really is through the struggles that you actually improve and level up your skills. So I'm so excited to be on this journey with you, and I look forward to all of your success in the future.
That's also what's really cool about us doing it in this space right here is whenever we're going through the modules, um, I mean, we're essentially going to be doing it together. I'm the one that has the course, of course, but we will have an open forum to discuss. I will give y'all time to work on your own, and we can just ask questions of each other. So this is essentially just going to go at the pace of the group. Um, so yeah.
All right, so first things first, before we do anything else, we first have to get set up and ready for web development. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of applications that we'll be using pretty much full time during this course. There's two major tools that we'll rely on, and that is going to be the Chrome browser and the Atom text editor. And between these two tools, we're going to achieve a lot. Later on in the course, when we're introducing more advanced concepts such as using the command line or using a database, then we'll install other things as we go along. But to get started, the most important applications we need to install are just these two. Now, you might already have Chrome installed, but if you don't, then be sure to check out the Web Development Course Resources list, which I'll link to in this current lesson. And it's really, really important that you check over here, because every single time I mention a link or every single time I try to point you towards something, the links will show up over here and you'll be able to click on it to save you all the trouble of having to type it all out. Open up this page in your browser and just click on this link to go ahead and download and install Chrome. And that should be pretty simple, and it will guide you through the process. Now, if you're wondering, do I have to use Chrome? What if I already have Firefox installed? Or what if I want to use Safari? Normally, I would say that's completely fine. But in this case, because we're going to use some of the developer tools inside Chrome, and I want you to be able to do it step by step along with me while watching the videos, it's best in this case to just simply download and use Chrome. So now that you've downloaded the browser you need, the next step is to install a code editor. And out there are so many different code editors. For example, Atom or VS Code, Sublime, Brackets, and if you think about it, all that you need to actually write code is just some form of text editor. So you could, if you really wanted to, even use something like Notepad. But the downside of Notepad is it doesn't have all of the great features that some of these other specialized code editors have. So two of my favorite are Atom and VS Code, and I use both of them pretty regularly. Now, in the course videos, you'll see me use Atom, but if you have a strong preference towards any other code editor that you're already used to that you want to use instead, then feel free to do that. But if you are a complete beginner to programming, then I recommend we go ahead and install the Atom text editor. And it's completely free to download and install. So if you just head over to atom.io or go through the web development course resource list, then you should land on this page. And it very cleverly figures out what system you have that you're running. Now, if you're a Windows user and you head over to atom.io, you'll see that it'll automatically detect that you are viewing this on a Windows computer, and then you can just go ahead and again click that big yellow download button. And you should end up with something that's called something like atom setup.exe. And you'll be able to see this in your downloads folder. So now if you just double click on that, and it will automatically do everything it needs to install Atom on your system. So once you're done, it should open up a new Atom window like so. and you would have successfully installed Atom. So now as a Windows user, you are done installing Chrome and Atom, and you can head over to the next lesson where we install some packages to power up our Atom code editor. For a Mac user, continue listening, and I'm going to show you the same process but on Mac OS. So all you have to do is just go ahead and click download. And once download has completed, then you can simply head over to your downloads folder and double click to unzip that package. And now you will see Atom show up. The last thing you have to do is just to move this application into your applications folder. On the Mac, it's just a matter of heading over to your Macintosh hard drive and then your applications folder and then dragging in that Atom application that you just downloaded in your downloads over into here. And then you're all done and you're set up with Atom. So now that you've got Chrome and Atom installed, head over to the next lesson and we're going to start exploring Atom packages and see the ways that we can start powering up our Atom code editor. So now that we've installed Atom, the next step is to power it up with packages. So you can see that they have over 8,000 packages, which are bunches of code that other programmers have written to make your experience of using Atom better. So what we're about to do is a bit like that 90s MTV show, Pimp My Ride. We're going to improve our code editor using these additional components and add-ons. It's almost like we're upgrading the sound system to our car. Now, the simplest thing for us to do when we want to install a package is to simply open up Atom, and in the welcome guide here, you should be able to see this install a package section, which we can click on, and then we can click on open installer, and that will take us to the correct position in the settings menu. Now, if you're on Windows and you want to be able to navigate back to here, the easiest way is to go to File and then go to Settings, and then you'll find the same panel and you can click on Install. And in order to install the packages, all we have to do is to type their name into the search bar, and then it will search the entire library of packages, and we're able to install, uninstall, or change its settings. So again, if you head back over to the web development course resource list, you'll see that there is a list of Atom packages that we want you to install. And these are the ones which are recommended, and these are the ones which are optional. And then if you search for each of these packages, for example, starting with atom-turn.js, then you should be able to find and install these packages into your Atom code editor. And if you have any problems at all during the installation process, take a look back at that Google Drive document where we've got troubleshooting tips and advice as well. So now, as a Windows user, you are done installing Atom, installing Chrome, and also the Atom packages, and you can safely skip the rest of the video and continue to the next lesson. Now, if you are a Mac user, all you have to do is open up Atom and go to Preferences and then go to Install, and I want you to search for each of these and then just go ahead and install it. So you can simply just copy and paste it into here, and you'll see the one that should match up exactly with the name that you see over here, and then just go ahead and click install. Similarly, if you had any problems installing the packages, I recommend heading over to that Google Drive doc that I linked to in the course resources and take a look through the troubleshooting steps and see if they can help you to resolve any issues that you have. And then once you're done, you've finished all the installation steps, and we can get started by heading over to the next lesson.
All right, so I am fairly certain that I have already shared the Atom packages and the resources. Yes, I did. In the resources in the Discord. We're not going to need them tonight, but if you're following along, you're going to need them next week. So I'll post those again and get them set up ready for next week.
All right, guys, it's Angela from the App Brewery again. So At this stage, I'm presuming that you've probably at some point in your life done a tutorial or a lesson somewhere else out there on the internet. And inevitably, at some point, you'll probably get stuck on a problem. Now, I spend a lot of time thinking about how I can make the course such that you get stuck less often. But with programming, it's almost a core part of the learning process that you do get stuck and you get yourself unstuck. So I tend to find that when I get stuck on something, I try to see it as a challenge, because usually when I solve it and when I figure it out, there is a huge sense of satisfaction and there's usually some associated growth. Now, having taught over 100,000 students online and offline, I've seen people struggle in lots of different ways. And I just wanted to summarize the steps that you can go through when you get stuck on any sort of programming problem and the framework that you can use to get yourself unstuck in the quickest way possible. Now, the first step is to evaluate what is the expectation versus what is the reality. What did you expect your code to do? Or what did you expect to happen? And what actually happened? So every time you run your code, think to yourself, what do I expect to happen? And then see what really happened and try to figure out what is causing the difference. Now, while you're writing code, it's inevitable that you will end up creating errors. And this can happen when you've made a mistake or spelled something wrong, or even when you're just trying to install a piece of software. And those errors are usually accompanied by bits of text or the error message. And you can see this in your browser or in your code editor. And most of the time, it might seem like these error messages are written by aliens because they don't seem to make any sense. But you can quite easily figure out the human meaning in English for it by just putting it into Google. And you'll usually get lots of different answers as to what the cause might be and how you can fix the problem. And one of the websites, if you don't already know about it, it's going to shortly become your very best friend, and that is stackoverflow.com. So I recommend searching for any errors that you come across into Google and then heading towards the Stack Overflow websites that come up as a result. And this is exactly what real life developers do every single day. And in fact, I've worked in teams where we will all just go to the pub and have a drink and end the day if Stack Overflow is no longer working. So it's all a part of the developer workflow. Now, if that still didn't help, or you're confused by the results that you're getting back, then it's a good idea to re-watch some of the video up to the point when the code started breaking or it started doing something unexpected. Because in the videos, there are always step-by-step instructions, and it's really important that you check to make sure that you haven't made a typo here or there, or you haven't capitalized something that shouldn't be capitalized, and just re-watch the video right before when your code broke in order to try and figure out what might have gone wrong. Now, the next step is you can check your code against my code. At the end of every tutorial module, there is a completed project that you can download, and you can scroll through the completed code, compare it to your own, and see if there were any typos, any errors, any mistakes. And if it helps, you can even copy and paste sections from the completed code into your own module just to see if that line or that paragraph helped to fix the issue. And if that still doesn't solve it, then the next step is head towards the Q&A. So underneath every lesson, there is a Q&A section. And it's a good idea to check in the lesson when your app has broken to see whether if anybody else had similar issues to you. And if you can't find anybody with the same issues, then ask in the Q&A. But make sure that you ask your question in the lesson where you're having the issues. That way it makes it much easier for other students to be able to learn from your mistakes, and also for me to be able to quickly identify what the problem might be. And if you have a question about anything in the tutorial, it's a good idea just to include the timestamp at which it occurs in the video, so I can quickly watch it and figure out what you're referring to, so that I can better answer your questions. Now, when you're asking questions in the Q&A, the way to get the most helpful responses and solutions is by following a 4-step approach. So firstly, tell us, so myself and other students, what did you expect to happen? Then what actually happened? And then include a screenshot of all of your code that corresponds to this situation, and then include a screenshot of the debug console that includes any errors if there were any errors or if your app has crashed. Now, to take a screenshot of part of the screen in Windows, all you have to do is hold down the Windows key, Shift and S, and then you'll get these little crosshairs show up, and you'll be able to take a section of your screen as a screenshot. And once you let go of the mouse, it will save this to your clipboard, ready to be pasted into Paint or any other application. If that doesn't work for you, be sure to just Google how to take a screenshot of part of the screen, and you'll see lots of videos that can help you with this as well. If you're using a Mac computer, on the other hand, this shortcut is going to save you a lot of time, and it might be worth noting this down in your notebook. When you use Command, Shift, and 4, you get this little crosshair that shows up, and you can start clicking and dragging the area that you want to take a screenshot with, and it will save it automatically to your desktop, which then you can upload into the Q&A area for the lecture. So that's just a brief step-by-step process on what to do and how to get help when you get stuck. And it's important to remember that everybody gets stuck sometimes. I've spent days trying to find a bug in my code, and it turns out to be just a comma that was misplaced or a semicolon that was accidentally deleted. And one of the greatest joys for me anyways is figuring out these problems and fixing them. So don't worry if you do get stuck. Everybody will try to help you. And just remember that getting stuck and solving it is all a part of the learning journey.
All right. So that concludes this week's lesson. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask them now. If you have anything you want to talk about, go ahead and talk about it now. Is there anyone? All right. So like I said, this has been recorded. I'm not sure we're going to post it, but we'll post it and you'll be
Yeah,
tagged.
I can upload it to YouTube or just like upload like a file.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. If you have any suggestions about how this lesson went this week, anything you need more out of me, please go ahead and put it in the suggestion box and just tag me. Thank y'all for coming. I think this went well. Yeah. I'm going to hop off now, but if you have any questions or anything like that, go ahead and tag me. We'll be running this same one again next Thursday at 2000 UTC. And I'll probably be in here around 3 on the days that I do it by myself if anyone wants to tag along. But like I said, next week's lesson, which is Introduction to HTML, will be the event for next Thursday. All right, guys. See y'all next week. You too, man.